Alright guys, another retro review roundup, and this time it's going to be on movies that I've seen before, which is Star Wars episodes 5 through 8. Now, I reviewed Star Wars episodes 1 through 4 and Rogue One and Solo recently in anticipation for The Rise of Skywalker, but now doing this new format, I'm going to do recording all 5 of these together in a roundup video. Even though my roundup videos for theatrical and retro are usually for movies I haven't seen before, Star Wars, of course, I've seen. I'm going to put all these 4 movies together to review them all. So let's get started with The Empire Strikes Back, which is considered by many to be one of the best films ever made. People love this movie, me included. But for me personally, on terms of a watchability scale, like I don't think this is my favorite. I mean, it's still a great movie. I really love everything about it. I love everything they have done for Star Wars in this film. But for me, this one is one that's not. It's not as rewatchable, honestly. Like, I really think it's weird. I'm not saying that like, oh, it's the pacing, because I grew up watching the first 6 movies, but it's one of those movies where everybody loves it. I appreciate it and love it too, but it's not my favorite. Honestly, if I ranked the films, it would be my number 6 in my recent ranking for the Star Wars films. So, Empire Strikes Back is the second chapter in the original trilogy where Luke Skywalker has to go get Jedi training from Yoda, while Han Solo and Leia encounter Boba Fett and Lando. And it's one of those movies where it's very incredibly well made. I love the fact that everything about this movie, even if it's not as rewatchable for me, I love everything about it. I love the characters. I love the scope. I think that this is really one of the most beautiful Star Wars movies. I think that the specific designs with the planets, I think, are really great. I think using Hoth as the snow planet, and then using Dagobah, which is this like dirty like planet that's just made with like a lot of trees and it's all grimy, and then Cloud City, which is this beautiful like futuristic looking planet, which would harken close to like how the prequel planet Coruscant looks, where it's this very citywide location. And I really like the distinction between the planets in this one. I think that really works, and I really just like all these characters and how they go and delve into this movie with their new character arcs, with Luke learning who he is, like failing at trying to save his friends, even though Yoda and Obi-Wan tell him not to. And I think that it really shows that Luke Skywalker is a very flawed character, and you'll see that throughout these movies, as well as The Last Jedi, where this character is a character that's so flawed in a way where he's so fascinating, and I really think that he's a great hero character, like Anakin Skywalker. I love both of them, but I think Luke, he goes through such a great struggle because he is the one looking into the situation. Like, Anakin was born into it, and Luke is thrust into it. And I really thought that it just works very well with Luke as his character. And of course, Han and Leia are great. Really love both of them. They're both great characters. They're both entertaining, both fun. And Lando is a great addition to this movie. I really like Billy D. Williams in this role. Like, he's awesome. I'm glad to see that he's returning in Rise of Skywalker. And all the scenes where this movie elevates, like from episode 4, this movie elevates more emotionally, I think works very well. The scenes where Luke is training with Yoda is really fantastic. And of course, everybody loves the scenes. But I love that scene where Luke encounters Vader in the woods, and it's not really Vader, it's like a vision or like an illusion. And he cuts his head off, and then it's Luke underneath it. So Luke's seeing what his future could become, and it's just a very, very great moment. And one moment in this movie that's one of my favorite moments in any film is the moment where after Vader and Luke have the fight, and Luke is hanging on the edge of his life on the bottom of Cloud City, and he says, Leia, and then it cuts to Leia being able to see him, and he says, hear me, and she figures it out and says, we gotta go back. That's one of the most emotional moments in any of the Star Wars movies, and just one of my favorite moments in movies in general. It really is. It's so incredible, just that moment alone. Return of the Jedi, the third in the original trilogy, the original closing chapter for these characters, where it's one that people rag on, and like every Star Wars movie gets ragged on, so it's not a surprise. This was just the starting point, because you had A New Hope, which people loved, and then you had Empire, which at whenever it was released, people didn't actually love. And then you had Return of the Jedi, which people didn't love either. So it's one of those films where, like, I feel like it doesn't deserve a lot of the hate. I think all the Star Wars movies are great. I love them all. I think they're all entertaining in their own right. They're all supposed to be popcorn movies. They're all supposed to be just entertaining movies. And I thought that Return of the Jedi really works on an emotional level, because Luke Skywalker going through his transition of becoming what he might become and go to the dark side, because his father Vader has become part of the dark side. So you look at that like it's a very sad thing whenever you realize that Luke could turn. And I really love that in the movie. I love that there's stakes where this character, everything is lost to him. Like, he's going to be in this situation where he might not be able to get out of it and not go to the dark side. I really love that. And I love how Palpatine is so manipulative and so incredible and in this movie and all the movies. And I love the fact that you look at the way that Vader in this movie starts to change. Luke, his son, has given him a change where, like, he looks at him like he realizes that he has done the wrong thing the whole time. And that scene at the end of the movie where Vader is dying in Luke's arms, and Luke says, like, I've got to save you. And Vader just says, you already have, Luke. And, like, tell your sister you were right. Like, that's just one of my favorite moments in any movie. And, again, this movie in particular, like Empire Strikes Back, I feel like it has a lot of great emotional moments, but I think it has a lot of great visual moments too, like the planets again. Going back to Tatooine is a great addition. I love doing that. I love seeing the opening where, like, they're fighting on the sail barge with Boba Fett. I think that's a great scene. And I like how then, of course, Luke goes back to Dagobah, and then they go to Endor, which Endor is this regular planet that looks like a normal planet we'd live on, where it's just a lot of grass and a lot of trees, and it looks normal. And the Ewoks are funny, and they're fun. And I really just love this one in particular. I feel like on terms of, like, emotional resonance and in terms of being fulfilled as a story, I feel like this is one of my favorites. Honestly, if I had to rank this between this and Empire, I'd say I like this one a tad more just because of the resolution and feeling like you made such a great finality to it, even though, of course, there's more movies after this, but at the time it was final. And I really thought that this one is just, again, a fantastic movie. The Force Awakens, Episode 7, the reboot-ish Star Wars movie, where you have this character named Rey and this character named Finn, and also Poe, who's not as important in the movie, but you've got the three new characters of this movie who are the ones that are getting the torch passed to them, where Rey is the scavenger. You know nothing about her. She might have Force abilities, maybe. And of course, if you've seen the movie, you know that she does. But Rey is this character where she is kind of like Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy, where, like, this character who, except for the fact that you know that Luke is a Skywalker, you don't know if Rey is yet, because of the yet released Rise of Skywalker movie. I'm really curious to if they'll make her a Skywalker, but Rey in this movie is this unknown scavenger who might have Force sensitive abilities, and I really thought that how they do it with this character, like, starting out with this movie, you see this character and you really feel immediately for her. You really feel like, because the writing is so good and because the acting is so good, you really feel this character struggle and, like, being stuck on this, like, crap hole of a planet, Jakku, that looks like Tatooine, but another form of symbolism to, like, make it seem like she's kind of like Luke Skywalker or Anakin. So I really love that as well. And I think that the Daisy Ridley, I think she might have been in something else, like, really small and really indie before this movie, but putting her in this movie without her being in anything else, really, as well as John Boyega, who plays Finn, was a really ballsy move, and I really thought it paid off, because I thought both of these actors are great in this movie. They really work so incredibly well. And I love all their moments together. I love how they're just friends, but it kind of feels like a romantic thing. And really like those characters. And I really love how the movie doesn't show Luke Skywalker until the end. It's about them and Han Solo joining forces to stop the bad guys. And I think that it works really strongly because again, Harrison Ford back in this movie is great, and I love seeing him back, and I loved his arc in this movie. I love that he is at the end of his ropes, and by the end of the movie, he is killed by his son, and it is just such a moment of clarity for Kylo Ren, but it's also a moment of fear for the audience that Han Solo is killed by his own kid who cannot be redeemed, or feels like he cannot be redeemed, at least in this movie. So it's great seeing Harrison Ford back. He's great. It's also great seeing Carrie Fisher back, even though she's not in it as much as she will be in Last Jedi. But the characters returning, I think, are fantastic, and I think the new characters really, really hold up to these older characters. Like, they really gave these new actors such great... they had such great performances for Rey and Finn, Daisy Ridley and John Boyega. And Oscar Isaac as Poe is great too, but he's just not in it that much. As opposed to, again, like Leia, he's more prevalent in Last Jedi. But in this one in particular, I think he really, he's fine, but he's not in the movie that much. He was supposed to be killed off 30 minutes into it originally, but they decided not to, which I thought was good, because I really like him in The Last Jedi. But this movie, people give the argument, like every freaking Star Wars movie, they give the argument that something's so wrong with it. In this one in particular, it's that this movie is way too much A New Hope. And I see why they did that, because for me, I mean, I love the prequel trilogy, but a lot of people didn't. So a lot of people did too. I feel like a lot of people did as well, but they just didn't say that. I feel like negativity goes more farther than positivity when it comes to movies. Like, whenever people say they hate something, people cling on to it more than someone saying they liked it, and then the conversation is over. So I feel like these Star Wars movies, they get a lot of negative reception from fans, but I feel like they don't truly have that big of a negative reception. It's more negativity, again, for me, just goes way farther than positivity whenever you have conversations. People like to be negative, so people think about negativity more than positivity, which really sucks for me. I don't think that's right, but anyways, what I was saying, the negativity in this movie was that it is too much like A New Hope, and I understand and completely see why people think it's like that, and it definitely is, in my opinion. It definitely is a lot of rehashed New Hope. But they did that in a way where they wanted fans to come back who probably weren't fans of the prequels, and also just fans of the original movies, because the original movies are the ones that started it all. So I feel like it's kind of a mix between all that. But it does have a lot of New Hope in it, which Phantom Menace also did as well. Not as much as this one, but it did too. It had little moments as well. These movies, George Lucas wanted to make like poetry, where it's like these characters complement each other, at least in the first 6. And this one felt like it did that too, where like Rey is this character who, like Anakin or Luke, is somebody who wants to be more than what they are, and I think that it works very well. But it's because of the Starkiller base. I feel like people complain about this movie more, because it's just another Death Star again. And we got, if you count Return of the Jedi, then Force Awakens, and then Rogue One, you got 3 different movies with the Death Star in a row. So it's like, I understand why people complained about it. It didn't bother me too much, but also it's like, I understand. I completely get why people complain about this stuff. It's not like I'm saying anybody's wrong or right. I can see why. I just don't really feel that strongly about that. Or in Star Wars movies, I don't feel that strongly about any of the things people say negatives, because I just feel so entertained with these films overall that it doesn't bother me that much whenever people make complaints about stuff. So Force Awakens to me just is a great character piece, and it's a great introduction or reintroduction back into this world where like you have a mystery 30 years after the Return of the Jedi. It's like you don't know what's going on. Where's Luke? This new character Rey, this new character Finn and Poe, they all are these new leaders of this franchise where you get the old characters back, but they have great moments, but it is about these new characters, and I really love all 3 of these new characters. I think they're great. I think they hold up to the original and prequel trilogy main characters, especially Daisy Ridley, like as Rey. She's so great. There's so many great moments of you just feel complete empathy for her, and the movie visually, I think, is beautiful too. It feels like the original trilogy, which of course it's going off of the original trilogy in terms of the timeline, so I understand. But I love how it looks too as well. Love the performances, love the writing, love the action. The action is great. The visuals are great. It's a J.J. Abrams looking movie because of course he directed it, but it feels like Star Wars to me, and I love that as well. And I love my favorite moment in the movie is where at the end of the movie Kylo Ren and Rey are fighting each other. Rey is in the background while Finn is fighting Kylo Ren, and then Kylo Ren slashes Finn. And then the lightsaber flies into the snow. And Kylo Ren puts his arm out, about to grip it. And then the moment he does, it goes past him and gets into Rey's hands. And Rey gives a look like she is force sensitive and she doesn't know what to do. But she's going to do the right thing and fight this bad guy. And it is one of the most epic moments in any Star Wars film. It gives me the chills. It literally gives me the chills every time I watch it, with the score, with the moment, with the emotional moment, with the acting moment of Rey just looking at this lightsaber like she doesn't know what to do, but she's got to fight the bad guy. And I think it's just so incredibly well done. And this movie is so well done as well. I love all the Star Wars movies, and this is definitely one of my favorites. Then we come to Episode 8, The Last Jedi, the one that everyone rips on again, like every Star Wars movie that has come out after Empire Strikes Back. We always get this reputation of Star Wars movies getting crapped on, and it is annoying. So we come to this one where a lot of people hate it, and I'm not going to go super far into why people hate it, because I feel like that would be a disservice to how I feel about it, because I truly love this movie. Rewatching this movie, it's actually my favorite Star Wars movie, and I thought Episode 3 wouldn't be topped, but watching The Last Jedi again, it really just blows me away in how incredible this movie is, and how incredible on filmmaking scale it is, just how incredible on a surprising scale it is. Like, everything about this movie blows me away. Now, let's get started. So, it continues on right after Episode 7 ends, where Rey meets Luke Skywalker, and I love the fact that this movie, the way that Rian Johnson did this, I thought was very clever, because you've got The Force Awakens, which people complained about was too similar to A New Hope, but then people complained that the prequel trilogy was too different than the other movies. So it's like these people who make these movies, I feel the world for them, because how do they make a movie where nobody bitches and complains about any of these movies? Because every single Star Wars movie that comes out, people complain like it is the worst piece of trash ever, and I feel like no Star Wars movie comes even remotely close to a definition of trash. Filmmaking alone, visuals alone, like for any of these Star Wars movies, even if I didn't like them, I could see positives for these movies. But this movie gets crapped on because, of course, their childhood is ruined, because Luke isn't happy now because he saved the galaxy once, and then it was all for nothing. I truly love that. I love the fact that Luke is this angry guy, grumpy guy, who has had these problems of being seduced by the dark side in Empire and Jedi, and he almost was seduced at the end of those movies. And I love the fact that in this movie, whether it's true or not, you get the flashbacks from point of views of Luke and from Kylo Ren, Ben, where it looks like Luke was going to try to kill Kylo Ren, but also it looks like he's not. So you don't know the truth on that fact yet. But I love the fact that Luke is this guy who has lost everything. Like, he had saved the galaxy. He became a legend, as he says in the movie. And the way that he goes about it is he goes into hiding, like Obi-Wan and Yoda did. And I love the fact that he doesn't just go and be chipper and be like the hero again, because that would have been the lamest thing if Luke came out in this movie and was like, hey, I'm here to save the day again. I would have hated that, because we've already got Luke being this heroic character. And I love that this is a definition of don't meet your heroes at first for Rey, because this character finds Luke Skywalker and he is not wanting to be a part of any of this because of his failure, because of everything that he fought for was for nothing. And I really love that moment. I think that's such a fantastic way to elaborate on a character and not make him boring. Because if you made Luke just this happy-go-lucky character again, that would have made this movie incredibly lame and incredibly just not in a way where I would not have cared at all. I care the world for Luke in this movie because this character is now in a position where he is the most interesting character in any of the Star Wars films for me. Like Luke, this version of Luke in any of the films I think is the most interesting and the best acted by Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill's good in all the movies, but I think this movie in particular, he acted like crazy. And I love how he's one of those actors where he's done so many things over the years that he gets better with acting. And he's good in the other movies, but I love in this movie he gives like a fantastic performance that I felt like could have been Oscar worthy. But of course this is a blockbuster action movie, so it's not going to get that whenever the Oscars came out. But I really loved the fact that Luke Skywalker is this broken character that makes him immensely more fascinating than being just the typical bland hero again. I love that fact, and I love the fact that Luke in this movie is still Luke. He does make the decision at the end to do the right thing, even though he's hesitant about it because of everything he had was lost, and everything he went for is for naught, or was for naught until the end of the movie, whenever he sacrifices himself. And I love the fact that you have this fight between Luke and Kylo Ren, where you see from both sides of them that you think Luke might have tried to kill him, but also it looks like he might not have from Kylo Ren's side and Luke's side. And that battle between Luke and Kylo Ren, to me, is one of the best because it's not a typical lightsaber fight where you look at it and you see that they're about to fight, but then they don't, and Luke's just there being an illusion for Kylo Ren to help the heroes escape, because that perfectly encapsulates Luke as a character. He is going to be there to save the day, to not have a fight, just have a fight. He is there to have Kylo maybe be redeemed in the next movie, because Kylo Ren, like, Luke would not go and fight Kylo Ren in, like, fully just to fight him for no reason, because that would have been stupid to have them both fight when Luke wants him saved. And you don't want to have Kylo Ren get killed, and you don't want to have Luke get killed. So I felt like that was the perfect option, to have Luke die from being this illusion to save the day, to actually bring a spark to the rebellion, like Poe says in the movie. And I think that it works so well. And it really is just a fantastic, fantastic final scene with Luke. Like, I choke up every time I see Luke looking at those twin suns before he goes. And just Luke as a character, he's one of my favorite characters in the franchise. And in this movie, he's got his best performance and his best direction. I think that he is truly the best version of himself in this movie. This is the most interesting, this broken character. And I loved him in this movie. And Carrie Fisher is great as well in this movie. And I heard that she was gonna be more prevalent in The Rise of Skywalker, but of course you know that she passed away in 2016, unfortunately. So we did not get that. But what we got in this movie with Carrie Fisher is great. She really is so fun and so funny and so spunky, like she was in the original trilogy. And I really love the fact that whenever her and Luke meet at the end, and she says, the first thing she says to him is that, I know what you're going to say, I changed my hair. And then Luke just gives her a look like, oh, like, it's just so funny, because that's a brother-sister-like thing to say. And I just think that Carrie Fisher, it's so sad to see her gone. I never got to meet her in real life, but I really loved her performance in this movie, and it's so sad. And I know they're going to bring her back with CGI, like integrated scenes, like scenes that she was cut from in Force Awakens to bring back, so it looks like she's in the movie. But it's just so sad that she didn't get to finish on like what she was supposed to do, where like The Force Awakens was about Han, The Last Jedi was about Luke, and then Rise of Skywalker would have been about Carrie, or would have been about Leia. So it's really sad that she didn't make it. Like, it's so sad that she passed. I really wish I could have met her. But this is a great final movie to end on with her. Like, I love her in this movie. So she's great. And, of course, Daisy Ridley is fantastic. And so is Adam Driver, again, as Kylo Ren. This movie really perfectly, I think, encapsulates the fact that Rey is still looking for her, what she is, and you still get no answers, but you're still fully invested in this character. And Rey and Kylo Ren in particular, I love the fact that this movie states that they both are they both kind of have like a weird form of tension because, like Snoke said in the last movie, they've got light and the dark rising up, so they're both adversaries. And I love that you see in this movie that Rey is trying to figure out her destiny while Kylo Ren, Ben, is this character that killed Han Solo at the end of the last movie, and it made me so furious, of course, that you could hate this character and he can't be redeemed. But with the writing in this movie, the way that Kylo Ren, the way that he says and describes what Luke was like and what turned him, really makes you feel for this character, for the villain who killed off his father, the legendary Han Solo in this movie. The way they wrote Kylo Ren in this movie just is fantastic, and you really do empathize with the villain, and I love that this movie does that. I love that this character isn't fully gone yet, but I love the fact that you really do understand his motivations for it, and I think that makes this such a smart movie, and I really love that fact. And I love how this movie, while The Force Awakens cribbed on A New Hope a lot, this one cribs a lot on Return of the Jedi, especially with the scenes with Snoke. And I love the fact that you've got Snoke, who is this villain like Palpatine, who you know nothing about, and I love the fact that this movie does something that you would expect to happen in Episode 9, and you would have expected it to happen in Episode 9 with Luke dying as well. But in this movie, whenever you have the Return of the Jedi type scene where Rey and Kylo Ren are up there with Snoke, and Snoke says that Kylo Ren, he can feel that Kylo Ren has a sense of what he wants now, and Kylo Ren impales Snoke in half and kills him. And I think that is just a moment that was truly shocking and surprising because, again, you expect that to happen in Episode 9, and I like that they didn't go the typical route with this movie, even though they're using stuff that's from Return of the Jedi, like they did with New Hope and Force Awakens. They're using stuff in this movie to make it kind of copy the original trilogy, but in a way where I feel like they're making it fresh, and having Snoke killed off really had a great character moment with Rey and Kylo whenever they both fight off the Praetorian Guards, which is one of my favorite fight scenes in any of the Star Wars movies. And I love that there's not a typical lightsaber fight, because usually there's always one in this movie, but I love, again, I can see why this is a love-hate movie. I totally, in every way, can see why, but I love every decision to make this movie fresh and make this movie intriguing. And that fight with Rey and Kylo Ren versus the Praetorian Guards is fantastic. And after they kill off the Praetorian Guards, there's that moment, which is like Revenge of the Sith, whenever Anakin talks to Padme in Revenge of the Sith, like, join me. There's a moment in this movie where Kylo Ren says it to Rey, like, join me, like, we can do this, we can stop, we can join together. And I love how Rey just says, don't, like, please don't. And then, of course, they both grab the lightsaber, Anakin's lightsaber, and it splits in half when they both are pulling it with the Force together, and they're both evenly matched. And it's just a fantastic moment of them being evenly matched together. I love how these characters are evenly matched, but they've also got this sense of tension, like kind of a romantic tension, but in a way where it works so strongly with these characters and how well they're written, how fantastically acted they are. And I loved how this movie, even though of course it's the second chapter in a trilogy, by the end of the movie, it feels like the third act on Crate, it feels like that is the end of the trilogy. Like, that final fight feels so strongly like it's the end of the trilogy, because you've got the First Order and the Resistance, and they've got everything they've got, both of them fighting each other right there, then and there. And of course, they escape the Resistance with the help of Luke, but you've got just both of these two facets, like having every army, like the whole army they've got for each, the Resistance and the First Order. And it feels like it's the end of the franchise, like it's the third film in a trilogy. And I think that it just, in terms of that, it feels like this is a complete movie, even though there are, of course, ties that will connect in Episode 9. But I love that. And this is one of the most beautiful Star Wars movies as well ever. I think it feels like one of the biggest epics in any of the Star Wars movies. visually, again, everything about this is fantastic. The performances are fantastic, and I love every single performance. I love them all. I also didn't get to mention Poe. He's great, and I love Holdo too. Laura Dern plays her. That's so cool, and she's so great as well. And in terms of an editing action moment, like that's one of my favorite moments ever in a movie, is where Rey and Kylo Ren are pulling on the lightsaber with the Force while Finn and Rose are about to be executed by the First Order, while Holdo does the jump into hyperspace into their ships. That moment right there where they're all about to perish, and then Holdo just jumps into hyperspace and destroys the ships, is one of the best Star Wars moments, and it is truly incredible. So that is it for all my Star Wars reviews. I finally reviewed them all, leading up to The Rise of Skywalker, which comes out in 2 weeks. So I am so incredibly excited to talk about that whenever it comes out. Tell me down below what you guys think of all these movies, and thank you guys so much for watching.